The Gamble House is not just a mansion. It is a turning point in American architecture. Built in Pasadena at the dawn of the 20th century, this home quietly redefined what luxury, beauty, and craftsmanship could mean. Without marble halls or gilded ceilings, it achieved something far more powerful: perfection through detail, harmony, and human scale. Architects study it. Designers revere it. Filmmakers immortalized it. More than a century later, the Gamble House remains one of the most influential homes ever built. A place where every line has purpose, every material tells a story, and nothing was accidental. Today, we step inside to discover why this single house became a legend. Before we continue, take a moment and write in the comments, where have you seen the Gamble House before? Was it in a movie, a TV show, an architecture book, a documentary, or maybe you visited it in person? Let us know below. Your answer might surprise others watching. The Gamble House is famous above all else for one monumental reason. It did not merely represent the American Craftsman style. It defined it. Before this mansion was completed in 1908, arts and crafts ideals existed mostly as theories, scattered influences, or modest homes. The Gamble House transformed those ideas into a fully realized architectural manifesto, executed at a scale and level of refinement never seen before in the United States. Designed by brothers Charles and Henry Greene, the house rejected the dominant architectural language of the era. While America's elite were building marble-clad palaces inspired by Europe, the Gamble House turned inward, embracing honesty of materials, visible craftsmanship, and harmony with nature. This philosophical shift is exactly why the house became famous. It proved that an American architectural identity could exist without imitation. Every element of the Gamble House reinforces this identity. The low horizontal lines anchor the structure to the earth, visually connecting it to the landscape rather than elevating it above it. Deep overhanging eaves soften the roof line while protecting interiors from harsh sunlight, blending function with beauty. Nothing is ornamental for ornament's sake. Every feature serves a purpose, and that purpose is visible. The Craftsman style values truth in construction, and nowhere is that more evident than in the Gamble House. Structural beams are not hidden behind plaster. They are celebrated. Joinery is not concealed. It becomes decoration. Pegs, brackets, and exposed connections are intentionally highlighted, turning engineering into art. This approach was revolutionary and became the defining characteristic of high craftsman design. Materials play an equally important role in the house's fame. The extensive use of native woods, teak, mahogany, cedar, oak, creates warmth and continuity throughout the mansion. Stone and brick are used sparingly but deliberately, grounding the house physically and symbolically. These materials were not chosen for prestige but for authenticity, reinforcing the craftsman belief that beauty comes from integrity rather than excess. The interior layout further solidified the Gamble House's influence. Instead of rigid, compartmentalized rooms, spaces flow naturally into one another. Built-in furniture eliminates clutter and reinforces architectural unity. Windows are positioned to frame nature like artwork, making the surrounding environment part of the living experience. This concept would later become foundational to modern residential design. What truly made the Gamble House famous, however, was its completeness. It was not just a craftsman-style house. It was a total work of art. The architects designed everything: furniture, light fixtures, hardware, textiles, even the placement of rugs. This holistic approach elevated the craftsman style from a movement into a masterpiece. As word spread, architects, designers, and critics began to treat the Gamble House as the ultimate reference point. Publications featured it. Schools studied it. Builders tried, and failed, to replicate its precision. Over time, the mansion became the measuring stick by which all other craftsman homes were judged. Today, when people think of the American Craftsman style, they are often unknowingly thinking of the Gamble House. Its proportions, philosophy, and execution became the blueprint. That is why it is not simply famous. It is foundational. Without this house, the craftsman movement might have remained a footnote. Because of it, the style became timeless. The Gamble House is inseparable from the legendary status of its architects, Charles and Henry Greene. While the Greene brothers were already talented designers before 1908, it was this mansion that transformed them from respected professionals into architectural icons. Their fame, influence, and lasting legacy are directly tied to what they achieved within the walls of this single house. At the turn of the 20th century, American architecture was still searching for its own voice. Many architects relied heavily on European precedents, copying Renaissance, Gothic, or Beaux-Arts styles. The Greene brothers took a radically different path. With the Gamble House, they demonstrated that architecture could be deeply American, rooted in local materials, craftsmanship, and landscape, while still achieving world-class sophistication. What made the house elevate the Greene brothers to legendary status was not just its beauty, but its intellectual depth. The Gamble House embodied a complete architectural philosophy. Influenced by the English arts and crafts movement, Japanese architecture, and California's climate, the brothers synthesized these ideas into something entirely new. This level of synthesis was rare, and the clarity with which it was executed drew immediate attention from critics and peers alike. The house revealed the Greene brothers' obsessive attention to detail. They did not merely design the structure. They controlled every aspect of its execution. From custom furniture and lighting to door handles and window latches, nothing was left to chance. This total control was virtually unheard of at the time, and positioned the brothers as masters rather than decorators. Professionals quickly recognized the significance of this approach. Architects traveled to Pasadena just to study the Gamble House in person. Sketches, photographs, and measured drawings circulated among design circles. The house became proof that architecture could be both artistic and deeply functional, elegant yet grounded. This duality is what cemented the Greene brothers' reputations. The Gamble House also marked the peak of the brothers' careers. Ironically, their perfectionism, showcased so completely here, limited the number of projects they could take on. Few clients were willing to invest the time, money, and patience required to build at this level. As a result, no later project ever surpassed the Gamble House, making it the definitive statement of their genius. Over time, the house became the primary reason the Greene brothers are still studied today. Without it, their work might have been admired but forgotten. With it, they became central figures in American architectural history. Entire books, university courses, and exhibitions focus on this single commission as the embodiment of their vision. The Gamble House elevated the architects beyond their era. Modern designers, from mid-century modernists to contemporary minimalists, continue to cite Greene and Greene as influences, largely because this house demonstrated how architecture could be both emotionally resonant and technically rigorous. In essence, the Gamble House did not just make the Greene brothers famous, it secured their immortality. It transformed them from designers of beautiful homes into authors of one of the most important architectural statements ever made in America. One of the most powerful reasons the Gamble House is famous is that nothing inside it was standard. This mansion is celebrated worldwide because it represents one of the most extreme examples of total design ever executed in a private home. Every visible and invisible detail, from the largest structural beams to the smallest metal fastener, was intentionally designed, shaped, and placed as part of a single artistic vision. At a time when most luxury homes relied on catalog items, imported fixtures, and off-the-shelf furnishings, the Gamble House rejected all of it. The Greene brothers treated the house as a unified organism. Architecture, furniture, lighting, textiles, and hardware were not separate disciplines. They were one continuous language. This philosophy is one of the primary reasons the house achieved legendary status. Doors are a perfect example. Their proportions, wood grain orientation, and joinery were carefully considered to match the surrounding walls. Hinges and latches were custom-made, often concealed or stylized to feel organic rather than mechanical. Even the sound of a door closing was considered solid, quiet, and reassuring, reinforcing the sense of permanence and quality. The furniture was equally revolutionary. Instead of filling rooms with movable pieces, the Greene brothers designed built-in benches, cabinets, and seating that became extensions of the architecture itself. These elements eliminated visual clutter and reinforced spatial harmony. The few freestanding pieces that do exist were also custom designed, matching the house in scale, material, and aesthetic. Lighting further demonstrates the obsessive level of control. Fixtures were designed specifically for each room, balancing function with mood. Warm, diffused light highlights wood grain and textures rather than overpowering them. The result is an interior that feels calm, intimate, and timeless, a stark contrast to the harsh, ostentatious lighting common in mansions of the era. Even decorative elements followed this disciplined approach. Inlays, carvings, and motifs were subtle and restrained. Repetition of patterns creates rhythm, while slight variations prevent monotony. No detail competes for attention. Everything contributes to the whole. This restraint is one of the reasons architects still marvel at the house today. Perhaps most remarkable is that many of these details are not immediately noticeable. The Gamble House does not announce its craftsmanship. It reveals it slowly. Visitors often sense the quality before they consciously see it. This quiet mastery is exactly what elevates the house beyond luxury and into artistry. This level of customization required unprecedented collaboration between architects and craftsmen. Woodworkers, metalworkers, and artisans worked closely with the Greene brothers, often developing new techniques to meet their demands. The house became a laboratory of craftsmanship, pushing trades to their absolute limits. Because of this, the Gamble House is frequently described as the most complete residential design ever built in America. It is not famous because it is large or extravagant, but because it represents total control, absolute intention, and unmatched coherence. In an age of mass production, the Gamble House stands as a monument to what is possible when nothing is rushed, nothing is outsourced, and nothing is compromised. That is why it continues to be studied, admired, and revered more than a century later. The Gamble House is famous not only as a historic mansion, but as one of the most intensively studied residential buildings in the history of American architecture. For more than a century, it has served as a teaching tool, reference model, and benchmark of excellence in architecture schools across the United States and around the world. In classrooms, the Gamble House is not treated as a stylistic curiosity. It is analyzed structurally, philosophically, and emotionally. Students study its proportions, its joinery, its spatial sequencing, and its relationship to the landscape. Few houses offer such a complete and legible lesson in how architecture, craftsmanship, and human experience intersect. One of the primary reasons the house became central to architectural education is its clarity. Every design decision is visible and intentional. Load-bearing elements are expressed rather than hidden. Connections between materials are honest and readable. This makes the Gamble House an ideal example for teaching fundamental principles such as structural logic, material integrity, and architectural hierarchy. The house is also famous for demonstrating process, not just outcome. Architecture students can trace how ideas move from concept to execution. They can see how the Greene brothers translated philosophical beliefs into physical form. This makes the Gamble House invaluable as a case study in disciplined design thinking. Another reason for its academic fame is its resistance to trends. While many historic buildings are tied to a specific moment in time, the Gamble House transcends its era. Its lessons remain relevant to modern concerns: sustainability, human scale, craftsmanship, and emotional connection to space. This timelessness keeps it continuously present in academic discourse. Measured drawings of the Gamble House are used in design studios to teach precision and proportion. Sections and details are analyzed to understand how light enters a space, how wood ages, and how structure can be both functional and beautiful. Very few residential buildings offer this level of instructional richness. The house is also central to discussions about authorship and control in architecture. The Greene brothers' total involvement challenges students to consider the balance between creative vision and practical constraints. It raises important questions. How much control should an architect have? What is lost or gained through collaboration? These debates keep the Gamble House intellectually alive. Because the mansion has been meticulously preserved, students can visit it and experience firsthand what they study on paper. Walking through the house reinforces lessons that no textbook can fully convey. The scale of spaces, the warmth of materials, and the emotional rhythm of movement. Over time, this educational role has elevated the Gamble House from landmark to architectural scripture. Generations of architects have internalized its principles, consciously or unconsciously carrying them into their own work. Its influence is therefore multiplied through thousands of buildings that came after it. This ongoing academic engagement is a key reason the Gamble House remains famous today. It is not frozen in the past. It is continuously reinterpreted, debated, and taught. As long as architecture is studied, the Gamble House will remain essential. The Gamble House is world famous for its woodcraft, a level of precision, patience, and artistry that has never been replicated in any American mansion since. More than any other single feature, the house's extraordinary woodworking is what leaves architects, craftsmen, and visitors in awe, even more than a century after it was built. From the moment one approaches the house, wood defines the experience. Structural beams, brackets, railings, doors, window frames, ceilings, and built-in furniture are all made of carefully selected woods, each chosen for its grain, strength, and aging properties. The Greene brothers treated wood not as a surface material, but as a living element that would evolve over time. What makes this craftsmanship legendary is not ornament, but joinery. The Gamble House celebrates exposed connections, finger joints, mortise and tenon joints, pegs, and layered assemblies that are intentionally visible. These joints are not decorative add-ons. They are the structure itself. By revealing them, the house teaches how it is built, turning construction into visual poetry. The precision required for this level of joinery was extraordinary. Each connection had to be cut by hand, often with tolerances so tight that no filler or concealment was needed. This demanded master craftsmen working in close coordination with the architects, often adjusting details on site to achieve perfection. It was slow, expensive, and uncompromising, and that is exactly why it has never been repeated. Different woods were used strategically throughout the house. Teak, mahogany, cedar, oak, and maple appear in different spaces, each chosen to match the room's function, lighting, and mood. The Greene brothers understood how light interacts with grain, how wood absorbs sound, and how texture influences emotional comfort. Ceilings are particularly famous. Instead of being flat and hidden, they are layered, coffered, and articulated with beams that guide the eye and define space. These ceilings create a sense of shelter without heaviness, intimacy without confinement. Few homes before or since have achieved this balance so successfully. The staircases further demonstrate the house's mastery of wood. Railings flow organically, posts are subtly sculpted, and transitions between levels feel natural rather than abrupt. Each step feels intentional, reinforcing the sense that the house was shaped rather than assembled. What truly elevates the Gamble House's woodcraft to legendary status is its restraint. Despite the immense labor involved, nothing feels excessive. There is no carving for show, no unnecessary embellishment. The beauty comes from proportion, alignment, and precision. This discipline is what makes the craftsmanship feel timeless, rather than ornate. Modern technology makes it easier to cut wood, but it does not replicate the mindset behind this house. Today, time constraints, budgets, and mass production make this level of work nearly impossible. The Gamble House exists as a snapshot of a moment when skill, patience, and vision aligned perfectly. Because of this, the house is often described as the finest example of residential woodworking in America. It is studied not only by architects, but by furniture makers, carpenters, and artisans worldwide. No photograph fully captures it. It must be experienced in person to be understood. This unmatched mastery of wood is not just a feature of the Gamble House. It is one of the primary reasons the mansion achieved eternal fame. The Gamble House became famous because it stood in direct opposition to the dominant idea of luxury in early 20th century America. While the nation's wealthiest families were building palaces inspired by European aristocracy, filled with marble staircases, gold leaf, and formal salons, the Gamble House rejected all of it. In doing so, it redefined what luxury could mean, and that redefinition became one of its most influential legacies. At the height of the Gilded Age, luxury was synonymous with display. Homes were designed to impress visitors, signal status, and mimic old-world grandeur. The Gamble House quietly dismantled that mindset. Instead of cold stone and glittering ornament, it offered warmth, comfort, and intimacy. Instead of theatrical spaces meant to be seen, it created rooms meant to be lived in. This philosophical shift is one of the main reasons the house became famous. It proposed that true luxury lies in experience, not spectacle. Every space in the Gamble House is scaled to the human body. Ceilings are lower where intimacy is desired, higher where gathering is encouraged. Furniture invites use rather than admiration. Light is softened and controlled, creating calm rather than drama. Materials played a crucial role in this new definition of luxury. The Greene brothers chose wood, stone, and glass not for their cost, but for their honesty. Grain is visible, structure is revealed, surfaces are tactile. This authenticity was radical at a time when wealth was often expressed through concealment and excess. The layout of the house further reinforces its anti-Gilded Age identity. There are no grand ballrooms or ceremonial halls. Instead, there are interconnected living spaces that encourage conversation and movement. Built-in seating replaces formal furniture. Outdoor terraces blur the line between interior and exterior, making nature part of daily life. This approach resonated deeply with critics and designers. The Gamble House proved that a mansion could be luxurious without being pretentious. It offered a new model for American living, one that valued comfort, craftsmanship, and connection over hierarchy and display. The house also subtly challenged social norms. Gilded Age homes often reinforced class distinctions through rigid spatial hierarchies. In contrast, the Gamble House's layout feels democratic and fluid. Spaces are welcoming rather than intimidating, suggesting a more relaxed, modern way of living. Over time, this philosophy influenced generations of architects and homeowners. Mid-century modern design, with its emphasis on simplicity, honesty, and indoor-outdoor living, owes a clear debt to the Gamble House. Even contemporary minimalist homes echo its rejection of excess. What makes this mansion famous is not what it includes, but what it deliberately excludes. By saying no to ornament, imitation, and spectacle, the Gamble House said yes to something far more enduring: authenticity. In a period obsessed with grandeur, the Gamble House chose integrity. That choice not only set it apart, it ensured its lasting relevance. More than a century later, it remains one of the clearest examples that luxury does not need to shout to be heard. One of the most enduring reasons the Gamble House is famous is the extraordinary way it fuses architecture with nature. Long before concepts like organic architecture or indoor-outdoor living became popular, the Gamble House demonstrated how a mansion could feel as though it naturally emerged from its surroundings, rather than being imposed upon them. Set on a gentle rise overlooking the Arroyo Seco, the house was carefully positioned to respond to its landscape. The Greene brothers did not treat the site as a backdrop. They treated it as a collaborator. The low, horizontal massing of the house mirrors the land's natural contours, grounding the structure and giving it a sense of permanence and belonging. Terraces, porches, and sleeping balconies extend outward, dissolving the boundary between interior and exterior. These transitional spaces are not decorative. They are essential to how the house is lived in. They invite breezes, frame views, and encourage daily interaction with the environment. This seamless integration is a key reason the house feels timeless and alive. Materials further strengthen this connection. Wood tones echo the surrounding trees, while stone and brick anchor the house to the earth. The Greene brothers selected finishes that would weather gracefully, allowing the house to age alongside its environment rather than resist it. Over time, this aging has only deepened the harmony between building and landscape. Windows are placed with remarkable intention. Rather than simply admitting light, they frame specific views: branches, gardens, sky, turning nature into a series of living artworks. The effect is subtle but powerful. Wherever you stand, the outside world is present, calm, and balanced. Inside, spatial sequences reinforce this relationship. Rooms gradually open toward the outdoors, guiding movement and attention. The transition from enclosed interior spaces to open terraces feels natural and intuitive, never abrupt. This rhythm creates emotional comfort, and reinforces the idea that the house is part of a larger ecosystem. This philosophy was revolutionary at the time. Most grand homes of the era treated gardens as separate, formal spaces. The Gamble House erased that division, presenting a unified environment where architecture and nature coexist in mutual respect. Because of this, the house is often cited as a precursor to later architectural movements. Frank Lloyd Wright's work, California Modernism, and contemporary sustainable design all reflect principles that the Gamble House embodied decades earlier. Its influence extends far beyond its era. What makes this integration especially famous is its restraint. There are no dramatic gestures or forced alignments. The relationship between house and landscape feels effortless, the result of deep understanding rather than visual spectacle. Today, visitors often describe the Gamble House as calming, grounding, and human. That emotional response is not accidental. It is the direct result of architecture that listens to its environment rather than dominating it. This perfect marriage between nature and architecture is not just a feature of the Gamble House. It is one of the core reasons it remains one of the most admired houses in America. One of the most visible reasons the Gamble House became famous beyond architectural circles is its deep and lasting relationship with Hollywood. While many historic mansions remain known only to scholars and visitors, the Gamble House crossed into popular culture, becoming one of the most recognizable houses ever filmed in America. Hollywood discovered the Gamble House early. Its dramatic yet grounded appearance, rich textures, and timeless character made it a perfect setting for storytelling. Unlike overly ornate mansions that feel tied to a specific era, the Gamble House has a flexible visual identity. It can represent the past, the present, or even an imagined future, a rare quality that makes it invaluable to filmmakers. Directors and production designers are drawn to the house because it feels authentic. The craftsmanship reads clearly on camera. Wood grain, shadow, and depth create visual richness without artificial set dressing. Every room already tells a story, which allows filmmakers to focus on narrative rather than decoration. The exterior is equally cinematic. The layered rooflines, broad staircases, and deep porches create natural framing and dramatic silhouettes. The house photographs beautifully from multiple angles, making it adaptable for different genres, from family films to dramas to science fiction. Inside, the spatial flow is ideal for filming. Long sightlines, connected rooms, and varied ceiling heights provide dynamic movement for cameras and actors. Light filters in softly, avoiding harsh contrasts while maintaining mood. These qualities make the house both practical and visually compelling for production crews. Over time, repeated appearances in films and television cemented the Gamble House's fame. Audiences may not know its name, but they recognize it instantly. This subconscious familiarity elevated the house from architectural landmark to cultural icon. What makes this especially significant is that Hollywood exposure introduced the Gamble House to people who might never read architecture books or visit historic homes. Through film, the house reached millions, embedding itself into popular memory. This exposure helped ensure public interest, preservation funding, and continued relevance. Unlike many filming locations that are altered or damaged over time, the Gamble House maintained strict standards, preserving its integrity while allowing controlled access. This balance protected its legacy while expanding its audience. The house's presence in media also reinforced its symbolic power. It often represents intellect, innovation, mystery, or unconventional genius, qualities that align perfectly with its real-world identity as a revolutionary work of design. Today, the Gamble House stands as proof that great architecture does not need to remain isolated to remain sacred. Its collaboration with Hollywood did not cheapen its legacy, it amplified it. Through cinema, the Gamble House became not just a house you visit, but a place you remember. That recognition is a major reason it remains famous worldwide. While the Gamble House was already famous among architects and historians, its appearance in Back to the Future transformed it into a global pop culture icon. This single cinematic role expanded the house's recognition beyond design circles and introduced it to generations who might never have otherwise known its name. In the 1985 film, the Gamble House served as the exterior of Dr. Emmett Brown's home. the eccentric scientist whose imagination and intellect drive the story. The casting was perfect. The house's distinctive silhouette, layered craftsmanship, and sense of thoughtful complexity visually communicated genius, curiosity, and unconventional thinking before a single line of dialogue was spoken. For millions of viewers, this was their first encounter with the Gamble House. Even without knowing its history, audiences instinctively felt that this was no ordinary home. It looked intelligent. It looked intentional. It looked like a place where ideas mattered. That subconscious recognition is why the image stayed so firmly embedded in popular memory. The impact of this exposure cannot be overstated. Back to the Future became one of the most beloved and frequently re-watched films of all time. Each re-airing, sequel, and anniversary introduced the Gamble House to new audiences. Over decades, this repeated visibility created an emotional connection between the public and the house. What makes this effect especially powerful is that the house was not altered to fit the film. The film adapted to the house. Its real architecture became part of the storytelling. This authenticity elevated both the movie and the mansion. Fans began seeking out the location. Visitors arrived not just as architecture enthusiasts, but as movie lovers. This crossover audience significantly broadened the house's cultural relevance and helped solidify its place in American memory. Importantly, the association did not trivialize the Gamble House. Instead, it enhanced its mystique. The house became a symbol of creative brilliance, a physical embodiment of the idea that genius often lives outside convention. This symbolism aligns perfectly with the philosophy behind its design. The Back to the Future effect also contributed to preservation awareness. When people emotionally connect with a place, they care about its survival. The film helped transform the Gamble House from a historic artifact into a beloved cultural landmark. Even today, decades later, people continue to recognize the house first through the film and then discover its architectural significance afterward. This reverse path to appreciation is rare and powerful. The Gamble House did not just appear in a movie. It became part of cinematic history. That role ensured that the house would never fade into obscurity, securing its fame across generations and cultures. The Gamble House is famous not only for how it looks, but for how it changed the way people live inside a home. At a time when residential architecture emphasized formality, hierarchy, and rigid social rules, this mansion quietly introduced a more relaxed, human-centered way of living that would influence domestic design for generations. In the early 20th century, most large homes were organized around strict separation. Formal parlors, dining rooms, and service areas reinforced social roles and distance. The Gamble House challenged this structure. Instead of creating spaces meant to impress, it created spaces meant to be used, comfortably, daily, and intuitively. Rooms in the Gamble House flow naturally into one another. Walls do not abruptly stop movement, they guide it. Sightlines connect spaces, encouraging interaction rather than isolation. This openness was revolutionary at the time and laid the groundwork for modern open-plan living. Built-in furniture played a major role in this transformation. Window seats, benches, cabinets, and shelves became part of the architecture itself. This eliminated clutter and encouraged relaxed use of space. Furniture no longer dictated behavior. The house adapted to the people living in it. The house also introduced a new relationship between private and shared spaces. Rather than grand halls meant only for guests, the Gamble House prioritized family rooms, libraries, and informal gathering areas. These spaces feel inviting rather than intimidating, reinforcing a sense of belonging. Lighting and acoustics further enhanced livability. Soft, filtered light creates calm environments, while wood surfaces absorb sound, reducing echo and noise. These sensory considerations were rare in mansions of the era and reflect a deep understanding of human comfort. Perhaps most importantly, the house blurred the line between indoors and outdoors. Sleeping porches, terraces, and verandas encouraged daily engagement with fresh air and nature. This was not a luxury reserved for special occasions. It was part of everyday life. This new approach resonated widely. Architects and homeowners began to reconsider how spaces could support well-being rather than social display. Over time, these ideas became foundational to modern residential design. The Gamble House demonstrated that luxury could be quiet, personal, and adaptable. It showed that a home could nurture its occupants instead of overwhelming them. This shift in philosophy is one of the main reasons the house remains relevant today. What makes this legacy especially powerful is how invisible it has become. Many features we now take for granted, open flow, built-ins, indoor-outdoor living, feel normal precisely because the Gamble House helped make them so. In redefining how a home functions, the Gamble House didn't just influence architecture. It reshaped daily life. That impact is one of the deepest reasons this mansion achieved lasting fame. The Gamble House is famous not only as an architectural masterpiece, but as the most complete symbol of Pasadena's golden age. Built at a time when the city was emerging as a cultural, artistic, and intellectual center of Southern California, the house captured the optimism, refinement, and ambition of an era that defined the region's identity. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Pasadena attracted industrialists, artists, thinkers, and innovators, drawn by its climate, landscape, and progressive spirit. Unlike other American cities that expressed wealth through rigid tradition, Pasadena embraced experimentation and creativity. The Gamble House became the ultimate physical expression of that mindset. Commissioned by David and Mary Gamble of the Procter & Gamble family, the house reflected a new kind of patronage. Rather than demanding imitation of European styles, the Gambles trusted the architect's vision. This willingness to support innovation was characteristic of Pasadena's elite at the time and crucial to the city's cultural rise. The house also reflects Southern California's relationship with climate and lifestyle. Broad porches, sleeping balconies, and open terraces acknowledge year-round outdoor living. This was not a seasonal retreat, but a home designed for daily engagement with light, air, and landscape. That approach would later define California architecture worldwide. Pasadena's golden age was marked by intellectual curiosity and artistic collaboration. The Gamble House embodies this through its integration of architecture, craftsmanship, and philosophy. It was not built quickly or cheaply. It was built thoughtfully as a cultural statement rather than a status symbol. As the city evolved, many landmarks of this era were lost to development. The Gamble House survived, becoming a rare and intact reminder of what Pasadena once represented. Its preservation elevated its fame, transforming it into a touchstone for local identity. Today, the house stands as a bridge between past and present. It tells the story of a city that once believed deeply in the power of art, design, and craftsmanship to shape daily life. That narrative resonates strongly in an age of rapid change and mass production. For Pasadena, the Gamble House is more than a historic site. It is a cultural anchor. It represents a moment when ambition and integrity aligned, producing something enduring. This deep connection to place is one of the reasons the house feels so authentic. It could not exist anywhere else. Its materials, layout, and philosophy are inseparable from Southern California's landscape and spirit. By embodying the values of Pasadena's golden age, the Gamble House transcended its role as a private residence. It became a symbol of regional identity, and that symbolic power is a key reason it remains famous today. One of the most powerful reasons the Gamble House is famous today is not just that it was beautifully built, but that it survived. In a city and era where countless historic mansions were demolished, remodeled beyond recognition, or lost to development, the Gamble House endured. Its survival transformed it from a remarkable home into a rare cultural survivor. Throughout the 20th century, Pasadena underwent dramatic change. Estates were subdivided, large homes were seen as outdated, and architectural heritage was often sacrificed for progress. Many masterpieces from the same era as the Gamble House disappeared entirely. Each loss made the Gamble House more significant. What sets the Gamble House apart is that it narrowly escaped the same fate. After the Gamble family's direct involvement ended, the house faced uncertainty. Like many large historic homes, it became expensive to maintain and increasingly impractical as a private residence. Demolition or severe alteration was a very real possibility. Its rescue came through vision and stewardship rather than accident. The house was eventually entrusted to preservation-minded caretakers who understood its importance. Instead of modernizing it to suit contemporary trends, they chose conservation, a decision that would define its legacy. This act of preservation elevated the house's fame. It became not just an example of craftsman architecture, but the example, one of the few fully intact works of its kind. As similar homes vanished, architects and historians increasingly turned to the Gamble House as the last, best reference. Preservation also allowed the house to remain authentic. Original materials, finishes, furniture, and spatial relationships were maintained rather than replaced. This integrity is extraordinarily rare and makes the Gamble House invaluable as a historical document. The house's survival also shifted public perception. It became a reminder of what can be lost when architectural heritage is not protected. In this way, the Gamble House helped fuel broader preservation movements and awareness across California and beyond. Today, visitors don't just admire the house. They feel gratitude that it still exists. That emotional response adds depth to its fame. It is not admired only for what it is, but for what it represents: resistance to erasure. The Gamble House stands as proof that great architecture is fragile. Its continued existence required deliberate choices, advocacy, and care. That story of survival gives the house moral weight and cultural significance beyond design alone. In surviving when others didn't, the Gamble House became more than a masterpiece. It became a guardian of memory. That role is one of the strongest reasons it continues to be revered, studied, and celebrated today. One of the most frequently repeated statements about the Gamble House is that nothing in it is accidental. And this is not exaggeration. The mansion is famous because every line, angle, joint, and proportion was deliberately considered. This absolute intentionality is one of the clearest reasons architects and designers continue to revere it more than a century after its completion. At first glance, the house may appear organic and relaxed, almost effortless. But this sense of ease is the result of extraordinary discipline. The Greene brothers controlled proportion with near mathematical precision. Horizontal lines are emphasized to ground the structure, while vertical elements are carefully moderated so they never dominate. The result is visual balance that feels natural rather than imposed. Repetition plays a key role. Patterns appear across scales, in beams, railings, windows, furniture, and even hardware. These repetitions create rhythm and cohesion, guiding the eye subconsciously through the space. Small variations prevent monotony, giving the house life without breaking harmony. Alignment is another reason the house feels so resolved. Beams line up with posts. Window muntins echo structural divisions. Furniture aligns with architectural elements. This consistency creates a sense of calm, because the brain is not forced to reconcile conflicting information. Everything belongs. Even transitions are designed. Corners soften. Edges are chamfered. Changes in ceiling height are gradual rather than abrupt. Movement through the house feels intuitive because it was choreographed. You never feel lost or overwhelmed, even in a large space. This level of control extends to details most people never consciously notice. Screw heads are aligned. Wood grain is oriented intentionally. Joints are expressed in consistent language throughout the house. These choices may seem minor, but together they create an environment that feels deeply considered and complete. The Gamble House is often described as quietly perfect. That quietness is essential. There is no single focal point screaming for attention. Instead, the house rewards observation. The longer you look, the more coherence you discover. This slow revelation is one of the reasons it remains endlessly fascinating. Architects study the house to understand how restraint can be more powerful than complexity. The Gamble House proves that great design does not require excess. It requires clarity. In an era of speed and compromise, the idea of a mansion without a single random line feels almost impossible. That impossibility is exactly why the Gamble House became legendary. It represents a moment when time, skill, and vision aligned completely. This total intentionality gives the house a sense of inevitability, as if it could not be any other way. That feeling is rare, and it is one of the deepest reasons the Gamble House is considered one of the finest houses ever built. The Gamble House is famous not only because it is preserved, but because it is preserved as a living experience. Unlike many historic mansions that feel frozen behind ropes and glass, The Gamble House allows visitors to walk through it, feel it, and experience it as a home. This approach transformed the house from a static monument into one of the most engaging historic residences in America. From the moment visitors step inside, the house communicates warmth rather than distance. Spaces are not staged to impress. They are arranged to be understood. Furniture remains in place. Rooms flow naturally. Nothing feels theatrical or artificial. This authenticity is a key reason the Gamble House resonates so deeply with people. The concept of a living museum is central to the house's fame. Visitors do not simply observe objects. They inhabit the spaces those objects were designed for. They see how light moves through rooms, how ceilings change height, and how materials respond to touch and sound. These sensory experiences cannot be replicated through photographs or drawings. This accessibility also makes the house invaluable educationally. Students, craftsmen, and designers can study details up close, joints, finishes, proportions, in ways that textbooks cannot convey. The house teaches through experience rather than explanation. Importantly, the Gamble House achieves this without sacrificing preservation. Careful stewardship balances access with protection, ensuring the house remains intact while still welcoming the public. This balance is rare and difficult to achieve, and it contributes significantly to the house's reputation. The emotional impact of walking through the house is profound. Many visitors describe a sense of calm, clarity, and connection. These reactions are not coincidental. They are the result of architecture designed to support human well-being. Experiencing this firsthand deepens appreciation far beyond intellectual admiration. By remaining open and approachable, the Gamble House avoids becoming an abstract icon. It remains relatable, a place where people can imagine living, thinking, and gathering. This relatability strengthens its cultural relevance. The house's role as a living museum also ensures continual engagement. Events, tours, and educational programs keep it active and evolving rather than static. Each generation experiences the house anew, reinforcing its place in cultural memory. Many historic homes survive physically but lose emotional relevance. The Gamble House avoided that fate by inviting people inside, literally and figuratively. That invitation is one of the most powerful reasons it remains famous. In allowing people to walk through history rather than merely observe it, the Gamble House achieves something rare. It stays alive. And that living quality is central to its enduring legacy. The ultimate reason the Gamble House is famous is simple yet profound. It is widely regarded as the finest house ever built in America. This is not a casual compliment, but a conclusion reached by generations of architects, historians, craftsmen, and critics who continue to measure residential design against it. What elevates the Gamble House to this status is not a single feature, but the rare alignment of all elements. Architecture, craftsmanship, materials, proportion, function, and philosophy operate in perfect harmony. There are no weak moments, no unresolved spaces, no compromises. Every part of the house supports the whole. Unlike many architectural icons that excel visually but fail functionally, the Gamble House succeeds on both levels. It is beautiful and livable, intellectual and emotional, monumental yet intimate. This balance is extraordinarily difficult to achieve and is the primary reason it became the benchmark for excellence. The house is also famous for its integrity. Nothing was added to chase trends. Nothing was simplified to cut costs. Nothing was hidden to create illusion. The Gamble House tells the truth about materials, structure, and purpose. That honesty gives it moral authority within architectural discourse. Over time, countless houses have borrowed from its ideas. Few have matched its discipline. The Gamble House does not rely on novelty. It relies on principles, and principles do not age. Its influence crosses styles and eras. Modernists admire its clarity. Traditionalists respect its craftsmanship. Contemporary architects study its human scale. This universality is what separates a masterpiece from a moment. Importantly, the house remains relevant because it answers questions we still ask today. How should a home feel? How do materials affect emotion? What does real luxury look like? The Gamble House answers without spectacle, without excess, and without compromise. Calling it the gold standard is not hyperbole. It is recognition that this house achieved something that has rarely been equaled, a total, coherent, and deeply human vision of what residential architecture can be. More than a century later, the Gamble House is not just remembered, it is consulted. It remains the measuring stick against which greatness is judged. That is why this mansion is not merely famous, it is timeless. The Gamble House stands as proof that true greatness never needs to shout. More than a century after it was built, this mansion continues to teach, inspire, and challenge the way we think about architecture, craftsmanship, and the idea of home itself. It survived changing tastes, modern trends, and even time itself, because it was created with purpose, integrity, and human scale at its core. As styles come and go, the Gamble House remains unmoved, reminding us that when design is honest and intentional, it becomes timeless. If you enjoyed this journey through one of America's most important houses, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And let's keep exploring the stories hidden behind the walls of history.